Morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning.
Happy Monday. All right. Okay, so let's get started. I'm guessing that a few people will still trickle in here. Just a reminder, make sure you guys go look at the announcements to remember that we do have open lab times on Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 to noon. So if you do need any help with your geometrics, or if you just want to go into the lab to do that, or take a Certiport exam, that's fine. There will be another instructor there to proctor the Certiport exams for you if you wish to do that. And then Fridays, I think we only have, let's see, I think this Friday is our last Friday at noon for the lab. I might be able to do next Friday too. I haven't looked at my schedule yet. If I can, I'll post that in an announcement. Otherwise, 2 weeks would be Thanksgiving break. So, any questions on like the Certiport or open lab stuff? Okay. So that was really it for reminders. Did anybody have any questions on last week's budget assignment? So we're getting into week 11. Last week was week 10, the budget assignment. I know that one of you had reached out to me with a question. You guys doing okay on that? Did you need any help? Ask questions, guys. If you have a question, your classmates probably do as well. So last Monday, unfortunately, I forgot to hit record on our class session. Thank you, Elizabeth, for bringing that up. My apologies. The best I can say is to go through the instructions. If you have questions, email me and ask. If you watched the video instructions for last week's assignment, you should be pretty good on getting that stuff done. I don't think last week was too difficult, but again, if you have questions or you're stuck somewhere, you can send me your assignment and I can look at it and kind of help you, point you in the right direction. So sorry, that was my bad that I forgot to hit record again last week. We are recording today, so this week's session should be up around lunchtime.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I already emailed you this, but there's a point where the video says something else that the instructions do. It's like they don't say the same thing. Can I how to say unsubmit my assignment, then fix it and submit it again?
Yeah, yep. If you guys did get hung up or something, go ahead and just resubmit it. That's fine. I don't think that anything has been graded yet. So in the instructions here, just make sure you see this in parentheses. So the video instructions are from previous years, and the written instructions have been tweaked just a little bit. So make sure that you are following the written instructions. But if you need some like additional help to see how something is done, use the video. Most of like the steps and everything are the same. Sometimes it's just a little bit like with the formatting or a few requirements here and there, but mostly the video follows the written instructions. But again, just use those as a guide to learn like the concept or to see how to do something. And then make sure you're following the written instructions. That's what the rubric is based off of. Did you have a specific point where you were getting stuck, David?
Well, I don't have the instructions right now, but it was a point where the instructions on the Word document were telling me to use the average salary. What while the video was telling me to use the highest.
Okay, so use the average. That's the that's if that's what the written instructions said. Okay, and I think it did, if I remember correctly when I went through that. Any other questions on last week's? Okay, so let's get started going through this week's assignment. Again, this will be recorded, so you guys can go out and look at it if you need a little extra help when you're going through the assignment. All right, go back to week 11 here. All right, so this is our business assignment. So for this one, we're going to be creating a payroll system that records our salespeople, their corresponding teams, their salary sales, and if they received a bonus. So we're going to kind of do some formulas that focus on giving bonuses and incentives to the salesperson, you know, if their sales is greater than half their salary and such. So download the instructions and the template at least. If you want to see an example, you can go ahead and look at the example here as well. And I have already downloaded everything we need. So I'm going to pop up the template here, and I have my instructions on the other screen. If as we go along, if you guys have questions, just go ahead and shout them out. I can't always see the chat window, so if you have questions, just shout them out, okay? Like I said earlier, if you have questions, your classmates probably have questions too, so you're probably killing two birds with one stone. Okay, so we downloaded everything. Step 2 there in the instructions is to rename the sheet to our payroll data. So again, just come down here, you can double click or you can right click and do rename. And I'm just going to rename our first worksheet. Now, I'm not going to go through all the formatting, okay? So make sure you follow the instructions and do what it says to do, because we're changing some of the tabs colors, the worksheets, to different colors, and I'm not going to do like all the formatting of the dollars because all these figures are in dollars. So make sure you follow the instructions in there for formatting. Okay, so we are going to, and this is step 4, so we're going to add a new column here and we're going to type bonus. And then we're going to start inserting our functions. So in E3 here, in our new bonus column, we're going to do an if function. So this is a logical test. So I'm going to come up here to my formulas and I'm going to insert a function. And there's my if function. So the first couple of functions are pretty straightforward. The last one is a nested if statement. So that one's a little bit trickier. If you do need help on it, refer back to the video instructions or this recording. The video instructions are really good on this, and he helps make sense of what's actually happening. So for our first logical test function here, our if function, we are going to determine if the sales of each employee are over half of the person's salary. So if their sales are greater than half, so that means half we have to divide. So if half their sales, and then we have a greater than their salary. All right, make sure you're using your cell references here too, so you don't need to type these in manually. So this is our first logical test. D3 is their sales divided by 2. That's half of their sales greater than their salary. So the value, if true, we're on step 5B if you're following along in the instructions. The value, if true, statement, the person will receive a quarter of the difference between their salary and half their sales. So we'll just step through that piece by piece, okay? So if the value is true, meaning what we just put in up here, they are going to receive a quarter of the difference between their salary and half of their sales. So again, if half of their sales divided by 2, because we want the half, and then we need to calculate minus their salary. All right, and then we're going to divide by 4 because they're going to receive a quarter of the difference between their salary and half their sales. Now, so for order of operations, we need to put parentheses in here, okay? Because we want to calculate this figure first. So half their sales minus their salary, and then if it passes the logical test, we're going to divide that by 4. All right, so you can see it's going to give us a value of 375. That's what we're looking for. Now, if this is false, we're going to create another if statement. So I'm going to type if, and then I'm going to do an open parenthesis. And when you do that, you're going to see it's going to put these double parentheses up here, this pair of parentheses. So when you click in your function line up here, it's going to bring up a new argument box. Okay, so it looks like everything we just did disappeared, but it really didn't. We're still working through our formula. So right now we have a nested if statement. So in our new logical test box here, we are going to determine if the sales are less than the salary for our logical test. So we're going to do, let's see here. Whoops. All right, so if our sales are less than half of your salary, so we're going to do D3. Is less than C3. Okay, and then we are going to, so if that test is true, our value if true, we are going to type problem, because that's going to signify that there's a problem with that, okay? And then if it is false, we are going to say no bonus. All right, because we actually want that language in there. So when I click OK, oh, and all it's basically saying here is that I forgot a parenthesis on the end. So if you get this, you can just go ahead and accept that correction. It'll add that in there for me. And then you should see 375 in the first box. That's what we're looking for. Now, if you drag down, or if you just double click on your autofill handle, it should fill that formula in for you all the way down the column. All right, so the formula for that nested if statement is actually in the instructions. So make sure you check that out. It is complicated, I get it, but just follow the instructions and you shouldn't have a problem. If you get stuck on this, and I did have someone get stuck on it and bring it up last Wednesday, that's fine too. So Wednesday's class is for questions. So join our Zoom session and ask your questions there, or else, like I said earlier, you can always email me your spreadsheet, your Excel sheet, and I can kind of point you in the right direction and highlight some of the instructions for you to go back and look at, okay? All right, so We filled our column with that formula. The next few steps are all formatting. Okay, so it looks like steps 7 through 10 are all formatting. You're actually going to format your spreadsheet here as a table. So make sure you follow those instructions. So I'm going to skip down to step 11. All right. Actually, I'm going to skip down to 12. And I'm going to highlight my table here, and I'm going to format it as a table so I can show you step 11. Okay, so we're going to format as a table, and then I think that you were like white table style medium or something. And then my table does have headers. Oops. I just selected the wrong row. So I'm going to just reselect my data, and I'll do format as a table here. There we go. All right, so now step 11, when we're in our table here, you guys probably remember this from some of the geometrics training. We're going to add a total row, and we're going to deselect the banded rows. Okay, so you're not going to see that every other gray row there. That's the banded rows. So adding our total column is going to allow us to quickly total these up. So right now, what the bonus column is totaling is just the quantity. So it's counting the number of rows here. So we want to change this to sum instead of count. And you can do that just by clicking on that little arrow next to the box there and use the drop-down menu here and sum it up. And we're going to do the same thing for the salaries column here and the sales column. So we're just going to sum all three of those columns up. Okay, and then make sure again, you need to do some auto fit here on your cells and then format these as currency. All right, so the last thing we are going to do on this worksheet is some conditional formatting. So I am going to select E, our column E, and we're going to come up here to our conditional formatting. We're going to highlight some cells. And we are going to do equal to. And if it is equal to problem, we're going to highlight that with our light red fill and dark red text. So I'm just going to click OK here. And then with column E still selected, I want to highlight the no bonus cells. So I'm going to come back up here, highlight cells equal to, and I'm going to say no bonus. And then I'm going to change this to a yellow fill with dark yellow text. So now we have 4 cells highlighted, 3 problems and 1 bonus. All right, and that is it for our payroll data tab. So not too bad here. The next one, we are going to copy the payroll data tab. So you can right click here and we're going to do copy. And we are going to, yep, this is the book we want to copy to. We're going to move it to the end and we are going to create a copy. All right, and then we need to rename this and we are going to rename it to problems. Okay, so now we are going to come up here to cell E2 and we are going to do some filtering. So we only want this sheet to show us our problems. So I am going to check the box or uncheck the box for select all, and I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to check the problem box there. So we're going to filter just by the problems. All right, now Megan is a new employee, so we don't want to include her in this spreadsheet. So I'm going to come over here to the salesperson column and I'm going to filter. And I'm going to uncheck the box for select all again. And then I'm going to check Megan. Or actually, I'm going to just check Matthew and Bill. So when I click OK, Megan disappears. Okay, so that's really it for our problem spreadsheet. So I'm going to come back to our payroll data tab. Now we're going to do some pivot tables. So pivot tables just kind of allow you to manipulate the data and decide how you want to display that data that you want to see. And it can be anything really. So this could be helpful in the future when you guys get into the field if you're working a lot with numbers. All right, so payroll data. And if you are following along, this is step 19 under the problems tab instructions there. So we're going to select cells A2 through E19. All right, and then we are going to go up to our insert tab and we're going to do recommended pivot tables. And over here on the left, we are going to do the sum of bonus, sales, and salary by team. So it is it this one? One, two, three. No, that's not it. Is it? Sum of bonus. Why am I not seeing it right now? One second here, let me just flip over. Should be the third one down. Let's do this one. All right, and you can see that that pivot table puts it on a new sheet for us, but I don't think that is the correct one. I think I selected the wrong one here. Just see here, sum of sales. Yep. All right, so I'm going to actually delete this tab. Bear with me. I want to make sure we get the right one here. We'll come back up here and we'll insert our pivot table again. And it looks like sum of sales, sum of salary, sum of bonus. Not sure why this isn't popping up for me. Sorry, guys. Just trying to compare here. Third option, sum of bonus, sum of sales, sum of salary by team. Sum of bonus. Is anybody seeing that and I'm just missing it here? Okay, I think this is the right one. Okay, that looks right. Okay, so after you get the right pivot table selected, we are going to move this sheet after problems, and we are going to rename this to teams sums. Okay, so now we have our pivot table fields over here on the right. Hopefully everybody can see that. And we are going to change the columns around so that the sum of salaries is first. And we are missing bonus. So I am going to Yeah, I can't find the right pivot table. Okay, so our team setting is in the row section. Okay, so I do need to check that bonus, I believe. Then we will move it around here. Let me just look at my other pivot table here. Okay, so bonus, and I'm just going to move our bonus over to our values here. And then, okay, so now we're on track. So we're going to rename our columns here. So when you click on B2, the sum of, and we do need to reorder these two. So I'm going to put these in the salary as the first column. So you can see that it moved it over. And then it's going to be our sales and then our bonus last. Okay, so then we're going to rename our column headings here. So column B, we're going to change to salary sum. So the instructions show you another way to do this. Up here on your pivot tables analyze tab, you can come over here to the active field and you can either change it here or you can click on the field settings box and you can change it right here. So we're going to name this salary sum. And then for the sum of sales, we're just going to say sales sum. And then here we are going to say bonuses sum. And that all looks good. Okay, so you do need to format these again. There's a problem here. Not sure what's going on. I'm going to copy my one that's working over to here. Okie dokie. Here, let me show you guys for the sake of time as well. So this is one that I already did that has my test data in it. So this is what your spreadsheet should look like. I'm not sure where the other values are pulling from. I may have done something wrong in our previous worksheet. So we'll just follow this one. Okay, so we did the, we changed the column names, everything looks good in this one. So the next part we're going to do is another pivot table. So let me just show you in this spreadsheet that we need to go back to our payroll data tab. And we're going to select our cells again, A2 through E19. And we're going to come up to our insert pivot table again. And it's going to be that sum of this is a little wonky. All right, so follow the instructions. It should pop up for you. I was playing with this prior to class, and I think I may have lost my one pivot table that I was looking for. It should pop up for you, though. If you guys don't see that when you're doing the assignment, shoot me an email and let me know, and I can help you out with that. All right, so let me drag this one back over here. So we go back here, we copy our data, and we do our pivot table, it's going to create a new tab down below, and we're going to name that one team comp. Okay, so when you first do it, you're going to just see this pivot table, okay? And you can see over here on the right that you're manipulating some of the data over here. So we are deselecting the bonus box here, and we are selecting the salesperson box. Okay, that's going to put our fields in here. And what we want to do is compare our even teams versus our odd team members. So whatever part of a team or whatever team they're on, we're trying to compare the teams. So once we get our boxes checked and unchecked over here, so you should have your top 4 boxes checked. And then down below, you're going to make sure that salesperson is in the rows. And then your values are going to be the sum of sales and sum of salary. And your team is going to be in your filters box. Any questions there? So these are just draggable. So as you drag these back and forth, you'll see them change over here in your spreadsheet. Pivot tables can be a little bit tricky, and you guys saw me get hung up a little bit as well. So if you do have questions, let me know or watch the video. He does a really good job explaining and walking through this in the video too. Okay, so now that we did that, you're actually only going to have this one section here once you start manipulating the data over here in the pivot table fields box. So then you need to copy and paste so you have a second table. All right, and then you need to filter. So filtering, let's see what number in the instructions that is. So it looks like these are the last few steps here. So step 40 and 41. So the first table you're selecting your odd team members. And where's my other? Oh, right here. So by default, all of these are going to be checked, okay? So let's walk through this together. So you're going to have duplicate tables, and then the whole idea here is to compare your odd team with your even team members. So if we come up here and select, make sure you select the multiple items checkbox here. That's not going to be selected by default. So you need to check that. If you don't, this is what you're going to see, and you're not going to be able to select multiples. You get one. So check that box. And then for the first table, we're going to do our odd team members. So 1, 3, 5, 7. Click OK. That's going to filter those out for us. So then we can see their totals. Now, when we want to do the even team, again, make sure you check that box to select multiple items. We're going to uncheck the all, and then we're going to select our even team members, 2, 4, 6. Click OK, and then that filters out the even team members for us. So we can see how these two teams compare with their sales and their salaries. So that's really it for this assignment. I know we kind of ran into some issues with the pivot tables. If you follow the instructions, it should work for you. I'm not sure what went wrong there with the pivot tables, but at least you kind of got to see what it's supposed to look like in the end. In the example, in the instructions here as well, the business assignment for week 11, the example shows you that too. So you kind of can see how it's supposed to look in the end, but it's not going to show you the formulas or anything like that. So you kind of got to follow the instructions to get to that point. Okay, so if you guys have any questions on this, shout them out. or if you have any questions on the assignment from last week, that's fine too. This is just kind of some open time, the last few minutes of the class here to work through the bugs if you have any. Any questions? Okay, so Wednesday's class session is going to be optional. I'll be there for Q&A. If you guys are not on the call by about 9:20, 9:30, I'm gonna jump off. So I'm not gonna be there the whole time if you guys aren't jumping on. My expectation is that you would jump on at 9 o'clock, answer or ask your questions so you can get your answers and then move on. A few of you did pop in later last Wednesday. I stayed on a little bit longer than I normally would have, so just make sure that you're jumping on at 9 or shortly after, like 9:05, if you have any questions on the assignments. I will not be there the entire time if nobody's popping into our Zoom session. Is everybody doing okay with geometrics? I think that we're done with those now in the class, but some of you may be playing catch up. Have you guys had any other issues with those? I know a few of you were having some issues getting them to load. No more issues with geometrics? Okay, so if you do have some questions that don't load, if you can screenshot those for me and just send them to me in an email or let me know how many questions didn't load, I'll check geometrics and, you know, make sure that you're being honest with me. I can check geometrics on the admin side and then compare that with what you're telling me your experience was, and I can adjust your grade. So if you do have some issues on those, please let me know. Like, I don't want your grade to suffer because questions aren't loading. If it's like 1 or 2 questions, it's probably not a huge deal, but you know, maybe 4 or 5, that's gonna swing your grade. So make sure that you're letting me know if you are having issues with those. All right, if there aren't any questions, you guys are free. Use some extra time to maybe download the instructions and read through them and start checking things out. Hope everybody has a good week.
Wait, I have well, it's not really a question, but I just wanted to bring it to your knowledge.
Okay.
Okay, so hold on, I'm trying to get you full screen. There you go. Okay, so my computer, like I don't know what's going on with it. It won't boot Windows, and like whenever I like type in my locker password, it's like it like give me a black screen. So I was wondering like if it was somewhere I could go on campus because I got what was the last assignment we did? Budget assignment, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah, I got my last assignment. It's on the computer. So I was wondering if I could maybe get a temporary fix or even just extracting my files from the old computer.
So what are you seeing when you boot your computer up?
Basically, it's something wrong with the computer. I'm not sure what's wrong with it, but it's giving me a black screen. It's black screening me. So I was wondering if it was somewhere on campus where I could go.
Yep. So we have staff in UCB 116. So over in the University Center, room 116. So we're on the lower level, kind of across from Starbucks, kind of kitty corner. If you want to bring your computer into that area, a technician can help look at it for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Are they open right now or?
Yep, we are open 9 to 4.
Okie dokie. Thank you so much.
Okay?
Yeah.
Any other questions, guys? All right, I'll hang out for a few more minutes. So if you guys do have questions, feel free to shout them out or type them in. I can see the chat box now.